Good afternoon. It is September 12th, 2024. It's a beautiful day outside, so thanks extra special for being here. Really appreciate it. Meeting at housekeeping, roll call, we're automatically recorded here on Zoom. Meet and greet, we dispense with that again over Zoom. And recording, I thought we saw was turned on. And call to order. Let me double check to make sure. Yep, let's give me the little recording thing working. Okay. Um, call to order. I'm gaveling this open. Do I have the agenda was previously published and made available? Do I have a motion from the floor to approve the agenda as published?
So moved, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Do I have a second?
Second,
And that was
Randy.
thanks, Randy. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we are underway on the approved agenda, and will also carries us forward to the concept of the last meeting was published online and available as our last minute meeting, minutes of our last meeting. And do I have a motion to approve those as published?
So moved, Randy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we're underway with the approved minutes of our last meeting. Takes down updates, issues, and good efforts. Just a little bit of advice for everyone that if you really need to cook something in the middle of your rubber pool, probably not the best way to hook up electricity, but who knows? Anyway, event of note, GIS LAS conference. That's October 2nd through October 4th. I thought I'd put up on the board for everybody to take a look at it. Events that will be taking place. I'm going to blab between 11:30 and noon on Thursday to take a look at where we are on the update with the emergency location markers. There's an interesting presentation by Curtis Carlson. He's going to be talking about using powers for good, creating an atlas for a volunteer fire department with nearly zero budget. We know a good way to do that. And then we jump down to Geospatial Asset Registry. Tom Paulson from One Spatial, who currently has the state 911 vendor contract. He'll be doing a presentation, might be something worthwhile to sit in on. And then we move on to Fusion View, which is a project of the underground mapping team effort. And then finally, Top Secret GIS by none other than myself. And I guarantee if you show up for Top Secret GIS, you will not be disappointed. But it's top secret, so I can't tell you what I'm going to talk about. So that moves on to the booth will also be up there and running. We're going to try to support U.S. National Grid. And the space has been provided by Share Geo. And then we jump on to talking about some people things. Here's what we got. Oh, hey, there's that guy, Randy Knipple, on Friday, October 4th, 12:30 to 2 p.m. at the Consortium Awards Luncheon. We'll be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations, Randy. That's a significant achievement, and we look forward to you receiving that. We move on then to the Minnesota Advisory Council on Infrastructure. This is a little bit of an educational thing for everybody. This is a graphic as it relates down in the lower left-hand corner. That GITA for many years beat the drum on this, and if you're not familiar with who GITA is, that's the former entity that was known as the Geospatial Information and Technology Association. And they were always trying to drive home the point of how important that geospatial data sets were to our understanding of where physical infrastructure is. And anybody that has gone through the changes in the utility community that have been brought about through GIS will strongly reinforce that. So that moves me on to the next slide, which may seem disconnected from that, but here's the idea. If you're not aware of it, the Secretary of State of Minnesota publishes anytime a board or a commission becomes available. The Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council, as an example, has a item that will get published here when slots open up on that commission. And so it allows anybody in the state to apply. And it's a really pretty simple process. You click on the button and you basically fill out who you are, where you are, and how to get a hold of you. And then you drop your resume in. Well, lo and behold, there's this thing standing up in the state of Minnesota called the Minnesota Advisory Council on Infrastructure. And sort of like the academies in an appointment, there's a number of individuals here that have seats available that they can award. And so the thought would be that unlike the state of Michigan, which does not have a very robust GIS community outside of the academic world, Minnesota's has a very strong one, as we all know. And why I'm speaking about any of this is because, unfortunately, the concept of this entity got stood up using the boilerplate language from the state of Michigan. And they didn't look in any way, shape, or form of trying to make sure that they had some technical expertise on this council about GIS, which leads me to the next point. I did some arm twisting and asked this gal, Barb Cedarberg. I know some of you know her. I said, Barb, I think it'd be a really great idea, given the fact that you've been the chair of this underground utilities mapping project team, to put your hat in the ring, and she's done so. So well, I've got my fingers crossed. I hope you have your fingers crossed that we can get somebody intimately involved in that council that's got, at least a background in what the GIS can do for any sort of an effort like this. Okay, other things that we want to talk about here. I don't have anything additionally in those areas, and I'll open the floor. It's going once. It's going twice. Gone. We're moving on to the next thing. Issues. If you've ever been in a restaurant when the Samoans show up on an all-you-can-eat buffet, you can understand the frustration of the owner of the Golden Dragon. All-you-can-eat buffet does not mean all-day buffet. You no come stay 4 hour, you eat, you go home. Okay, that's an issue. I'm putting up this slide. It looks pretty busy. I get that, but I'm trying to drive home the point that Matt and Stacy are going to talk to us about extensively, the work that they've had underway for the past year and a half or so on trying to get this thing over here up and running. And that basically is a process by which data from various entities are brought together to create a statewide data set of whether it's fire stations, police stations, anything that would be important for the emergency response world. Well, that's great that you can create something like that, and there's a lot of work that needs to go on there within this box here to get that process up and running. But more importantly, well, I actually shouldn't say it that way, but just as importantly, is that once you have a data set that has been milled and truly been defined as being, top notch stuff, there needs to be a way that there an endorsement process happens that stamps that. And so at the upcoming MGAC meeting, Allison Slatz, who is the Geospatial Information Officer for the state, is going to propose forming a work group that's going to work through how to create the policies, the procedures, the steps that need to be done so that anything that's created over here in this column has a way of receiving an effective endorsement from the state as it being the best possible data for whatever data layer we're talking about. Well, the flow continues over to the other side here on the right-hand side because there's all these other entities out there that are looking for that kind of data, and they've been running their own independent type approaches to do that. And hopefully through this process, there's another work group that's out there that will be able to facilitate with these organizations a more direct flow back to what we're trying to do through the process of this being created in the middle. Where does this go? Here's what I would ask of you. Allison is asking for help on trying to get that middle piece going. And it still needs to be approved by the GAC as a process to go forward. But if you've got interest in trying to help out on something like this, it would be greatly appreciated. And obviously, I've published Allison's contact information down there at the bottom. Just shoot her a note, say, Allison, I hear you're getting ready to start up a work group on this topic, and I think I would like to participate. And that's all it's really going to take. So please give some consideration to that. Okay, good efforts. Here's a reminder, of course, from the military that if you don't guard your stuff, bad things can happen to it. If you're not familiar with it, you're looking at the Air Force Academy, whose F4 on static display got painted by the Navy to look like a Navy airplane. Generally not a good thing to have happen to your stuff. Anyway, in good efforts with our various project teams, they've been hitting on all cylinders, and I'm super proud of the work that's been going on. And so that's what we're going to focus on for good efforts this time. Critical infrastructure project team, you'll get to hear again more from them later in the presentation today. But of significant events for them, they've been able to give a presentation to the Geospatial Preparedness Working Group. That of the National States Geographic Information Council. That's like the big kahuna nationally. And they did that presentation on August 7th. They've got a lot of people looking at their recording that they put together that describes the issue. And again, we're going to dive into that some more today. And they also put together, in that process I just described with what Allison will be doing, they've put together an initial straw man as a way to how to get that process up and rolling, what the steps might be that would support endorsing data layers so that there's something official from the state. So at least there's a working point for that process to begin with. Over at the Underground Utility Mapping Project team, they completed their first outreach item. That's all being kept under lock and key right now. And the reason being is there's still lots of different moving parts in this. There are multiple documents, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 different documents that are being worked on and prepared for the rollout for this effort because it has so many moving components to it. If we jump over to the U.S. National Grid effort, primarily Minnesota has done the bulk of the work to get the U.S. National Grid Institute up and running. That's a symbol you see over here. And so just this past weekend, a national brochure was released, which explained what the U.S. National Grid is, how it can be used in emergency response circumstances, and similar. So you're looking at the brochure. Also released this weekend has been the upgrade to the usngapp.org, which allows anybody with a cell phone, I should say smartphone, of any version, simply to go to a a URL, which is US National Grid, usngapp.org, and lo and behold, you are on the grid. There's now instructions. If you click on the info, the instructions will tell you how the app works, and there's also a license that you have to click off on working. But the substantial upgrade that came out with this particular app is it gives you the capability of doing research on a grid location. It also is able to show whatever's in the box up here on Apple Maps, Google Maps, or GIS Surfer. And if you use GIS Surfer, you'll have a grid pop up and away you go. Important in the instructions in here, you'll find a description of why latitude, longitude needs to be used in only a certain version, and that certain version tends not to be what the way GIS people think. There is an actual national endorsed form of one of the three primary forms of latitude, longitude as being the way to do business, and you can see it displayed as it is right here. It's not degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, next we're moving on to what did I forget, or other victories or defeats. Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, that moves us on to project team reports. Leadership team, just as a reminder, there's the listing of the folks that participate in the leadership team meetings of the EPC, and anybody out there that thinks that they got to be a GIS whiz to participate in the leadership team, that would not be true. This is more about finding direction, issues that are out there that need to be worked, things of that nature, and anyone's allowed to come on and sit in on it. The next one is going to occur November 14th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And you can shoot me an email if you want to play. And obviously, I've got my email address listed there. That takes us over to data critical infrastructure assessment. Just a quick reminder, when Stacy and Matt are giving their presentation this afternoon, we have 3 priority projects that are currently being worked at the Emergency Preparedness Committee because of the issue that, there's only so many hands and so many hours in a day to work something. We identified the critical infrastructure data workflow being our number 1 priority for the year. And they've received the bulk of support as best we can from the committee in general. Next meeting for them, Monday, October 14th at 1 p.m. And if you check your calendar, you may or may not be in the office, but the meeting will go on. So be aware that it's the real deal. And you can always pick up information about any of our meetings by just going to the calendar on the EPC's board or website, and it'll pull down. It'll even give you the link, and away you go. Or alternately, give Stacy a shout at that email address, and away you go. Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team. I've already mentioned, obviously, that Barb Cederberg, who just retired as the Chief Operating Officer, COO of Gopher State One Call. She's now basically the lead on this project in terms of it's really her sole responsibility or her sole thing that she's working on right now. Maybe of interest to this group, on August 12th, PHMSA announced another $100,000 that it's committing to this project. That money is funneled in through the nonprofit Share Geo. Listed over on the right-hand side are all the organizations that are contributing both sweat equity and money into this project. PHMSA, for instance, is getting keyed up to do a major a video promotion for this that they're planning on using. Is at my understanding, the plan will be to use it at the CGA event. which is the Common Ground Alliance conference in Colorado next year. So the $100,000 has been devoted to building a separate piece of software, which is going to complement this core project that's been underway, and that will allow the reporting of abandoned or unknown buried infrastructure when excavators come across that stuff, and it's something that happens all the time. The total underground utility mapping project team commitment now sits at $400,000. So, like the other project teams that the EPC is involved in, there's, this just another marker of the level of extent and work that's taking place. The pace is brutal. We thought we would be in a realm of only doing one major presentation per year, was the projected plan for this group for this year. As you can see here on the board, this is just for the last quarter of 2024. And I've highlighted anything in yellow where a member from this group is presenting outside the state of Minnesota. This project has national attention on it, and there's lots of people that want to know about it and how it works and what the thinking is behind it. And so on September 8th, the initial release of the beta software took place, and the last quarter of the year will be spent trying to refine the process and spooling up the hard part to come, and that's knocking on doors and getting people willing to expose their utility data in a way that supports it. So lots of work to go. Next time we're going to meet will be Thursday, September 26th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And once again, go to the events calendar on the EPC board. You can find out all about it. Response, geospatial assistance. Brian Huberty has sat quietly on his hands, knowing full well that he's got a project that both he and I have thought about for a long time. We tried an initial effort at it, but it's effectively the equivalent of what you see here, Geospatial Support for Disaster Operations Guide. We'd like to try to get one of those put together for the state of Minnesota, a simple reference guide that will help people understand, how you get a hold of drone support, how you get a hold of Civil Air Patrol, how you get a hold of national assets, who pays for them, all of that kind of stuff. Because without that being readily available as information, these capabilities, I think, are underutilized, and we want to see what we can do about improving the visibility so that this kind of an issue is taken care of. And some of you have seen the thing I've done in the past as we wander into flooding season. And, here's kind of, again, the nutshell of it beyond my local resources, what geospatial support is available during a disaster. That's kind of the thrust of what we want to try to put down in writing, so everybody knows what the deal is. Response, U.S. National Grid. U.S. National Grid Institute is clicking along. And why is this so important? Here's a reminder. And I think what I'm going to do is every quarter pop a slide up like this so that everybody knows I'm not whistling Dixie. So here's the reality out there in the real world about the way the 911 system has many problems, and people also have a very difficult time in providing location information, even in the day and age when everybody thinks they're being tracked and everybody knows where they are at all times because their phone is, pinging up to satellites in the sky and the rest of it. So here's just an article that just ran on how messed up Washington, D.C. is. It's so bad that the fire department doesn't even trust 911 anymore. So it's a nationwide problem and it needs to be fixed. And one of the keys in fixing it is getting everybody to communicate using the same location language. And U.S. National Grid is what was already approved a long time ago. It's a matter, though, of getting people to adopt it, be aware that it exists, and the rest of it. Okay, so you can help us, though, and it's pretty simple. You can help us spread the word that the U.S. National Grid Institute is out there, and lo and behold, you see down there on the bottom side, how you get to U.S. National Grid Institute. And we just recently, thank you to one of the individuals that's actually on the call, Michael Sovereign, we've been able to get Facebook up and running and LinkedIn up and running. And there's always a U.S. National Grid YouTube channel. Those things are all out there to help you understand what this is all about. And you'll see blurbs on there, just like the one I just showed you. And it'll prove to anybody that's looking at it, we got a long ways to go as a nation. Okay. Priorities lists over at the U.S. National Grid, guys. 4 of the 10 are now done. 2 more are underway, and we hope to have a minimum of 8 of them completed by the end of the year. Not too shabby for that group. And once again, it's on the calendar. You want to go attend October 16th. There it is. Old business, new business. Is there any old business? See, I did come up for air. Going once, going twice, gone. Is there any new business? Going once, going twice, gone. Take stock at comments, announcements, other business, and then we'll adjourn. Are there any comments, announcements, or other business from the floor? I love it. Okay. That means we get to move on to something far more important. Here it is. Volunteer of the quarter. I wonder who it's going to be. Anybody know this gal? Volunteer of the quarter is Corey Richter, manager of the Ramsey County Highway Maintenance. And the reason she is the volunteer of the quarter is found in this citation, which reads, over the past decade, Corrine Richter has served in a variety of positions which have significantly advanced the mission of the EPC and overall safety culture in Minnesota, specifically as a public works employee of St. Paul, championed the 2015 deployment of U.S. National Grid emergency location markers in Lilydale Regional Park, thereby improving emergency response times following the tragic landslide deaths of 2 children in the park in 2013, served as co-chair of the work group which developed Minnesota's 2020 damage assessment data standard, co-authored the CJIS Best Practices Guide and Resources for GIS as approved by the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council in December 2022, chaired the EPC's Minnesota Geospatial Community Resilience Volunteer Group from 2021 to present, and led overall MGAC efforts as the 2021-2022 vice chair and the 2022-2023 chair. A truly exemplary member of Minnesota's public works community, Corey is the EPC's Volunteer of the Quarter for third quarter of 2024. A well-deserved recognition as put forward by the leadership team of the EPC. So hats off to Corey. Are you on today? I'm seeing Britta. You joined us early. Thank you. And I saw some clapping. Thank you very much. I think well-deserved acknowledgement of Corey's long and engaged effort, both with this group and the MGAC in total. So with that, we're going to move on to the next EPC meeting, Thursday, December 12th, 2 p.m. Central Time. We'll be online. I got a pretty good idea what the topic's going to be, but we'll leave that cat in the bag for the time being. But most importantly, 5 p.m. at a location to be determined. That same day, we'll have a holiday party, cold drinks, hot grub, and door prizes. If you were there last year, you know that door prizes were generous. So I think this crowd was small. I think everybody walked away with one. So keep that in mind. You'll see a holiday party announcement. It's come one, come all. The door's open, the bar's open, the grub's, plentiful, and we'll have some fun. So you people that have been at this event in the past have always said they got more work done just by gabbing with people, well, over a drink or two, and than they've done, with many hours at work. So keep that in mind. With that, we're down to a motion to adjourn. Do I have it motioned from the floor?
So moved, Randy.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Anybody
Jason.
opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.